Welcome to Uncharted. I'm your host, Captain Kelly, and with me today is Camille Lamb. Some of you may know her from American Idol, and some of you may know her from Below Deck. Or, you know her like I do, just a super cool chick with an unlimited number of talents and a super warm vibe. Camille comes from a merchant mariner's family, so it's safe to say that yachting definitely runs deep with Camille. But these days, Camille is working insanely hard on her music career. And today, she's going to share how her uncharted path got her to where she is now. So welcome, Camille.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's so good to have you here. When I was doing a bit of research on you, I had no idea that you come from a long list of merchant mariners. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I come from, well, way back, the United Kingdom, and my ancestors, they were all merchant mariners, and they were traveling from the UK to the States and doing all that. And so I grew up in Mississippi, and I grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, which people don't know that Mississippi has a beach and a whole yachting. I mean, you can call it yachting, but really it's like shrimp boats and sailboats and, running back and forth to the barrier islands. It's nothing like, Florida yachting, but nonetheless, I grew up sailing at the yacht club from the age of 7 until I guess I went to college. And then, I really just grew up on the water. It was just a part of my nature, a part of my life. And it makes sense that I'm here in Florida now and doing what really all of my family and friends have done in order to leave the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Most people come to Florida and start working on boats. So I just followed suit, really.
It's funny that you say that you grew up in Mississippi and Gulf Coast. And yes, there's, there's beaches there, because I've actually done quite a few deliveries from South Florida across the Gulf of Mexico, up all the inland rivers, and all the way up to as far as like Milwaukee. So
wow.
It's been, but I've run into so many people that say, oh, what you do is so cool. I could never do that. And I'm like, oh my God, you're such a head start. You're already here on the rivers. You're on the water. And so even though the quote unquote yachting industry, like there is in South Florida, isn't there, I mean, it's still so doable to make that transition. And I'm glad to say that's where you're from, and that you're in the industry, because I did run into a few people along the way delivering boats saying, oh, I'm not close enough to the environment. I can't, I just live on this river. And I was like, oh my God, no, like this is your guys' way of boating. And that's some tough boating on those rivers. Like,
oh, yeah, definitely.
You get out there with those big barges and those big tugs. Mm-hmm. You better know what you're doing if you're on those rivers.
Yeah, so my father, he has an unlimited license, and he ran cargo ships to Europe, and he ran up the Mississippi River and supply boats to the oil rigs. So a lot of the people who come from where I'm from, the type of boating they do, they may think that they wouldn't be able to like fit in on mega yachts and things like that. But really, like, I feel like that we have a lot of personality. Like these type of boaters have a ton of personality, and they go through a lot of really tough stuff. And so mega yachting could be a little bit of a piece of cake for them,
It could be. And you know what? I'm glad that another good point is, because I get a lot of questions all the time from folks that are in the commercial industry, which would be what you're describing, with your dad on the big ships, and even the guys with the tugs and barges and that kind of thing, wanting to go from commercial to yachting. And sometimes the yachting industry can be a little closed-minded and not want to let those folks in. But I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, I've spent some serious days and time on the river with these guys. And if there's anybody that knows boating and how to boat and knows seamanship, it's these fellas.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you got to take your shrimp boots off and put a collared shirt on and maybe watch your language. But it's totally doable. You gotta know the right Facebook pages, the right people, and know the right type of job you're looking for. Because I think people think when you join the yachting industry, it's just like a big mega yacht. But obviously, there's adventure boats, and there's sailing yachts, and there's sport fish. Like, I feel like commercial people would be phenomenal on a sport fish. And just because it's a lot of like hands-on, a lot of labor on a sport fish. So yeah, I just think you got to kind of just do your research on what the yachting industry really is.
Well, no, I'm super glad to hear that you have come from essentially the commercial industry and have excelled and done really well in the yachting industry, because that's going to be super inspirational for anybody that's listening that is coming from commercial and trying to get into the yachting industry. And for those of you that are listening from the yachting industry going, oh no, we can't let the commercial people in. Let me tell you, those guys can boat some circles around us. I mean, they know their stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're like my
yeah.
favorite type of guys for sure. They're funny, you know. I just love commercial people. I think they're great.
Ah, that's awesome. You
Mhm.
know, when I first met you, it was over a year ago now, and it was when we were at Captain Sandy's girlfriend's concert, a charity concert,
Her
and
fiance, her fiance.
your fiance, yeah, her fiance now. So and I heard you say behind me, I heard somebody say, "Is that Captain Kelly?" And I turn around and it's you, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like that you're a celebrity, and you said my name, but you're just the coolest human, and you introduced me as or introduced yourself to me as a serial what was it, a serial reality TV participant.
Yes.
And I was like, I got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
And so you've been on American Idol, you've been on Below Deck, you have been actually deck suit crew in the industry. Tell me about, let's just start with American Idol. Tell me about that.
Well, first, I just wanted to say I followed you on Instagram before you ever knew me, and you introduced me as a warm person. But that's how I always felt about you. I always felt like you were very warm and
Oh,
really helpful to, I think, a lot of women and just people in general joining the yachting industry. So I was really happy to see you there.
aw, thank you. Because I was going into there and I'm like, oh my God, there's all these Below Deck people. There's all these
Yeah.
celebrities here. And I'm just like, I'm just Joe Blow boat captain, you know? And then when I get the warmest welcome from you, I was like, oh my God, I instantly fell in love with you. I was like, this girl is just amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I knew when I saw you on Instagram that you have a ton of potential in becoming like a huge mogul for this type of line of work. So, yeah, but as far as American Idol goes, that was my first ever introduction to entertainment. And I've always been a singer and I've always had a really natural gift in singing. And so I grew up around Mississippi and in New Orleans, Louisiana, and in Fairhope, Alabama, singing in cover bands and wedding bands and bands on Bourbon Street and things like that. So it was an easy process to get into American Idol. And then that went really well. I made it to top, they said top 40, but there was like 60 contestants still left. And so I didn't make it to the live rounds, but nonetheless, that was my introduction into entertainment. And I realized, oh my God, I love the camera. I absolutely love everything about this like whole storytelling aspect, you know, that it was great. And then, you know, I got eliminated and I was like on this high of, oh my God, American Idol is going to make me a star. And then I hit this like low and it was, okay, now what? So that's when I moved to the Virgin Islands and I started sailing. And so then I moved to the Virgin Islands and I started sailing because I thought, you know, I wasn't going to be a singer. And then I got a call from a casting agent and they were like, oh my gosh, like you're a sailor, like you have this skill set. And I was like, yeah, I've been doing it my whole life. And they were like, well, we have this position for Below Deck. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, like I love the idea of TV. I've done reality TV before. This sounds great. So Below Deck, or Bravo, I guess, sent me to get my STCW, which was phenomenal. It was great. They put me up, paid for it. It was amazing. And so I got my STCW and then I went on to Below Deck. And I, you know, was really excited about being in the entertainment world again and doing television. But I will say I was a bit naive to like this type of reality show. I was I was on a competition show and then here I am on this show where I'm working, but I've never really done the whole mega yacht thing before. And there's a ton of relationships and friendships and working partners. And so, I mean, Below Deck was nonetheless like super fun, but an extreme learning experience for me.
I want to talk about that because I mean, as you know, I'm huge into the mental health space in general, but also making it a better space for yachties, for any seafarer for that matter. But just also the ups and downs that you go through in life, and especially, in your 20s, and which a lot of the younger yachties are in their 20s, and that's a for me, that was a hard part of life. You got everybody asking you what you're going to do when you grow up and where you're going to be and where you're going to go, and just all this. So you said, going back to American Idol, that you're riding this high and you're like, okay, I'm up here and I'm going to be this megastar. And then you don't. What what is it? What does that
Yeah.
do? How do you, if you were to talk to that version of yourself then,
Well,
what do you
I'd say
do?
it
How
was
did you handle
embarrassing.
that?
I'd say that's the best
Yeah.
feel. I mean, the best way to put it. That's how I felt, embarrassed. And if I could go back and tell myself, like, no one really cares, like no one really cares that you didn't make it. I guess people cared about me and wanted to know that I was okay and things, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But I was embarrassed, and I think it was coming from a place of, for all the people who wanted to see me fail, they got to see me fail. And not only did that happen with American Idol, it happened like twofolds on Below Deck. So, I think it's great that you are focused on mental health, because I mean, it is really important. And luckily, I come from, really strong people, and I've been able to just push through all of the negative press or feedback. But I mean, it's tough. It's really hard to be to be judged on an edit. It's an edit at the end of the day. And like you said, there's a ton of ups and downs, and you are into mental health. And I've heard you talk about this before on Instagram about drinking in the yachting industry and how it's really a big problem. And I would say that that was my biggest issue on Below Deck. Was I was overwhelmed, overworked, nervous, anxious, and and drinking is just a part of yachting, and I've been doing yachting my whole life pretty much. So I just naturally fell into drinking far too much, and that'd probably be my biggest regret for Below Deck, was the amount of alcohol consumption.
What do you have to say about that? And you're right. It is something that I'm pretty passionate about, because when I get up and I give my talks and stuff, or even when I share stuff on social media or I make a reel or something, it's really hard for me to go back and dig through all of the stories that I've heard from crew members that don't have an alcohol component in there somewhere. Every every single story that gets shared with me, or everyone that I go back and rehearse and remember, they all have alcohol involved. What would you say, eh, you know, every story that I share, or that I remember, or that I recall, has a component of alcohol to it. And what do you have to say about that? What can the industry do? What can individuals do? How do you fall into the trap? Because I don't drink. And it's just something that has just never interested me, and I guess luckily so. And how do you what are your recommendations? How do you fall in the trap? How do you not fall in the trap? How have you done? Because you are a solid individual. And that's not to take away the lows that you've had in life, but how do you work through stuff like that? How did you work through the low of the high, and then the low after American Idol, and then, the high and then the low after Below Deck and the drinking? How do you do all that?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, your first question about what I think of like recommendations for the industry would be, I think it starts from the top. And like that's why I've always really enjoyed your content, because you're a very compassionate person. And I think the yachting industry is difficult. You're away from home, you're living on a small boat, you're working 24/7. When the owners are on, when the owners are off, you're picking up their mess. There's very little time to have an identity, I think. And so I think when you have a good captain, and a captain who recognizes those things, I think when you're off, then you feel a little less inclined to be stressed, and a little less inclined to go drink, and to push down that stress, and to just go be mindless. So I'd say that, just I think time management's everything. I think better than anyone, since you've been to the bottom to the top, that it's a lot of work, and it's like the first drink you have after your shift's over, you're already drunk, because you're just so worked, like your hours are so long.
Mhm.
So I just really think it's like just the community on the boat, and the nature, the work nature. What's the word I'm looking for?
So the
The
culture,
culture,
yeah, the
the
culture.
work culture is everything, because it's already a stressful job, and then when you add on like a boss that's maybe too hard on you or whatever, then it's just bound to go down. But the highs and lows, I mean, I've just always known I'm a faithful person. I believe in God. I don't think that God looks at me and says that I'm, you know, a terrible person for the mistakes I've made. And I'm also honest with myself about the mistakes I've made. And I know where I'm wrong and I know where I'm right. And I don't really feel the need to, get online and tell everyone, where I'm being attacked, where I shouldn't be attacked, and why it didn't happen this way. And I just know that I have a lot in store. I'm an optimistic person, so lows only last for a little while, and I think they make me stronger. And I'm a tenacious person, so I mean, I don't know if it's just me, or I don't know if it's a personality trait of mine, but I think it probably is just a personality trait of mine, really.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but no. You've obviously figured out you've figured out the self-talk. You've figured out that there's a silver lining. I mean, I'm sure that or let me ask, looking back on even me, when I look back on my mistakes and things that didn't work out and things that didn't go the way that was planned, I wouldn't change a single one of them because it's what has got me to where I am now. And if I went back and changed one small piece of anything that I didn't do right, I wouldn't be here.
Well, you're right, and I think that I mean, I would say I have a lot going on for a 25-year-old, and I've done a lot, and I've been able to see a lot, and I think that really does come on the back of all of my mistakes and all of my failures, I guess. I'm not a failure, but I have failed. But I'll never be a failure because I'll keep getting up and I'll keep trying again. And I agree with you. I really wouldn't take any of it back, because I am mentally like a lot farther ahead than my counterparts, because I've had to pick myself up over and over and over again. And and putting yourself in the public light, I mean, the way to get clicks is to scrutinize somebody. So they're going to scrutinize you even if you're good or bad.
Yeah,
So, I've had to deal with a lot of things like that, and I think that builds a lot of character. So,
it does. And it absolutely does. And you said you're 25. I have to admit, the things watching you and the things that you're doing and have done, I thought you were like 35. Camille, I had your age is the one thing that I didn't look up because I was just for sure the way you carry yourself, your poise, your accomplishments. I was like, certainly this girl's got to be 35. I mean, she's got to be close to, like my age. I'm 42. So you are definitely, wow. I'm just, so
thank
that's a compliment. To say that. So you're very resilient. What about your family? How much your family and your friends that have been there to support you? Um, how is that?
I'm so lucky to have people in my life who really know me very well and love me very much. And so I've always had, honest. My father's a devil's advocate. My mother's just the most goofy, fun person you could ever meet in your life. And so I've had this really incredible balance of, be honest with yourself, but also don't take yourself too seriously, from my mom and dad. So they've been amazing. My family, they'll never judge me on anything I do. It'll always just be, what's next for Camille? What's she going to do next? And it's just nice to have people in your life who never count you out. So,
I think it's so important to realize though that you need a good solid 4 or 5 people in your life that's going to be in your corner. I mean, yes, at the end of the day, yourself's all you really got. So you got to be your own biggest cheerleader. You got to be your own biggest fan. But I think it's important to have a solid 4 or 5 that are in your corner that are going to be there to help pick you up, when you need it. And but you also attract what you are. You are yourself are a good person and you're really quick to reach out and you're quick to help someone. but that comes back to you, you know, 100 times over. And I'm amazed by your relentless determination. I mean, your music career, I watch it, and it's
Thank
growing, you know, and it's just I listen over and over. So, you know, probably when you're getting thousands of views, it's me. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I run around the boat and I'm like, just listen to Camille. Isn't her voice amazing?
Thank you, but it's
So,
hard. It just like anything else, just like making it to where you are now at the top. Like it's really difficult. Every day is like oh man, I don't feel like doing this. And but when you do it, you're like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. And so it's always this like I don't think it's ever gonna be easy. It's just simply not, you know, because I don't think you get rewarded right away in either of these fields, yachting or music. And so it's a lot, but it's definitely growing. I just need to keep with it so that it really takes off.
so what's next for you? What I mean, like your parents say, and that was one of my questions, is what's next for
Well, I have a
Camille?
show coming out. Yeah, so April 11th on the CW. I probably shouldn't say the name just yet because the cast has not been announced, but I can say that I'm on a show on the CW airing April 11th, and it's a dating show.
What
And
is
I
the
did
CW?
the CW is a network television. Um, uh,
Just
what do you call
another
it? Network.
network? Just
Yeah,
another
it's another
okay.
network. Yeah, so it's network television. It's not like streaming. And it's a dating show, and I did very well. So that's really next for me. And in the meantime, I do take trips to the Bahamas with friends and do some stewing and things like that. So just waiting for that show to come out, really.
Wait, so you're telling me you're a freelancer? I mean, because
I
there's
am.
there's on occasions I need some help. Well, that's good to know. I'll have to keep
Please.
that in mind. But oh my God, you have a show coming out. That's exciting, and it's a reality dating show.
It is, yes.
Now you're not like going off and getting married anytime soon after this reality
No, no, it was a
show.
it's a
What?
comedy dating show, and it's hosted by Nikki Glaser. So she's a comedian. And so yeah, it's a comedy dating show, and it's really funny. And I don't know if you watched Below Deck, but I mean, that's the thing about Below Deck, right? Like my fans. Okay,
You
half of
have
the people.
fans. You have fans. You have
Right, but half of them hate me and half of them absolutely love me. And so I have a very like polarized fan base, and I'm just really excited for this show to come out because it's a whole other side of me. I'm not working. I'm just falling in love, and I'm just really happy to be able to show that side because Below Deck was a different side of me, and I was 22 and when I filmed that, I was 25 when I filmed this, and people change. So I'm just really excited for that um snowball to start coming down.
So something snapped, thank God, and I put the work in. I put the work in to get myself in a better place. But then after I put the work in, I thought, oh, okay, I'm here now. I'm healthy. Oh, then I had another blip, and I'm like, oh, okay, yes, I got healthy, but you apparently have to do maintenance because if you don't do annual maintenance, you will fall back into that dip. So I am huge on personal growth and always working on myself. And I say too, the conversations that you have with yourself day in and day out are probably the most important conversations that you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And I guess if there's anything that I would want listeners to get today, and you're hitting on it, is the personal growth, the work that you have to put in. And it's never ending. And some days you'll suck at it. Some days you'll get it really good. But it's not easy. I'm identifying that it's not easy, but wouldn't you say if you put the work in, it is so, so worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you get to finally live your life once you put the work in, once you can realize what am I and what am I not, and stop trying to be what you're not and start being who you are, then I think that's when life starts to happen to you, and you don't have to go out there and try to dig for something. It starts to just come to you when you really accept who you are and you do the work to become better. And I think that's been like the purpose of my life ever since I started entertainment industry, is like self-reflecting, because I'll get over these shows and I'm like, well, how much was it the edit and how much was it me? And I have to be honest with myself. how much was it me, and how much, you know, was it not me, and how much was it, you know, what they wanted me to be perceived as. And so I think the most important thing to do with self-work is identifying what you are, what you're not, who you want to be, and who you don't want to be. And again, it's like you said, it is maintenance because you're always growing.
Wow. Camille, I could talk to you for
Yes.
hours, but I mean, you are just, thank you so much for joining the show today. I mean, guys, this has been Camille's uncharted path to where she is today. And one tough woman, hardworking, kind, caring, warm, just amazing individual. So, Camille, thank you so much for sharing
Thank you
today.
so much for having me, Kelly. It really means a lot.